mysteries that hide. So come on in, take a seat. Get ready for a show where anything can happen and the energy will flow. Welcome to the fun house where the music's loud and the lights are bright. A one-of-a-kind experience that will keep you up all night. You might get just Paul, or maybe one of his friends. Jazzy the Jester, Max the Magnificent, Logan the Legend. They're all here to take you on a ride. So join Paul and friends and let the good times roll. In the world of the fun house, where anything goes, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Paul's Funhouse. This week we are diving into the ever-popular vampire lore. Today we get part 3 of this 3-part series. So without further delay, let's get right into it. Beings having many of the attributes of European vampires appear in the folklore of Africa, Asia, North and South America, and India. Classified as vampires, all share the thirst for blood. Various regions of Africa have folktales featuring beings with vampiric abilities. In West Africa, the Ashanti people tell of the iron-toothed and tree-dwelling Asanbosum, and the Yu people of the Ads, which can take the form of a firefly and hunts children. The Eastern Cape region has the Impundulu, which can take the form of a large taloned bird and can summon thunder and lightning. And the Betsileo people of Madagascar tell of the Manga, an outlaw or living vampire who drinks the blood and eats the nail clippings of nobles. In colonial East Africa, rumors circulated to the effect that employees of the state such as firemen and nurses were vampires, known in Swahili as Yamamoto. The Rougarou is an example of how a vampire belief can result from a combination of beliefs, here a mixture of French and African Vodou or voodoo. The term Rougarou possibly comes from the French loup-garou, meaning werewolf, and is common in the culture of Mauritius. The stories of the Rougarou are widespread throughout the Caribbean islands and Louisiana in the United States. Similar female monsters are the Sucuyant of Trinidad and the Tunda and Patasola of Colombian folklore, while the Mapuche of southern Chile have the blood-sucking snake known as the Puchin. Aloe vera hung backward behind or near a door was thought to ward off vampiric beings in South American folklore. Aztec mythology described tales of the Cihuateteo, skull-faced spirits of those who died in childbirth, who stole children and entered into sexual liaisons with the living, driving them mad. During the late 18th and 19th centuries, the belief in vampires was widespread in parts of New England, particularly in Rhode Island and eastern Connecticut. There are many documented cases of families disinterring loved ones and removing their hearts in the belief that the deceased was a vampire who was responsible for sickness and death in the family, although the term vampire was never used to describe the dead. The deadly disease tuberculosis, or consumption as it was known at the time, was believed to be caused by nightly visitations on the part of a dead family member who had died of consumption themselves. The most famous and most recently recorded case of suspected vampirism is that of 19-year-old Mercy Brown, who died in Exeter, Rhode Island in 1892. Her father, assisted by the family physician, removed her from her tomb 2 months after her death, cut out her heart, and burned it to ashes. Vampires have appeared in Japanese cinema since the late 1950s. The folklore behind it is Western in origin. The Nuka-Kubi is a being whose head and neck detach from its body to fly about seeking human prey at night. Legends of female vampiric beings who can detach parts of their upper body also occur in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. There are 2 main vampiric creatures in the Philippines, the Tagalog Mandurugo, meaning bloodsucker, and the Visayan Manananggal, or self-segmenter. The Mandurugo is a variety of the aswang that takes the form of an attractive girl by day and develops wings and a long, hollow, thread-like tongue by night. The tongue is used to suck up blood from a sleeping victim. The Manananggal is described as being an older, beautiful woman capable of severing its upper torso to fly into the night with huge bat-like wings and prey on unsuspecting, sleeping pregnant women in their homes. They use an elongated, proboscis-like tongue to suck fetuses from these pregnant women. They also prefer to eat entrails, specifically the heart and the liver, and the phlegm of sick people. The Malaysian Penanggalan is a woman who obtained her beauty through the active use of black magic or other unnatural means, and is most commonly described in local folklore to be dark or demonic. She can detach her fanged head, which flies around in the night looking for blood, typically from pregnant women. Malaysians hung juju, or thistles, around the doors and windows of houses, hoping the Penanggalan would not enter for fear of catching its intestines on the thorns. The layak is a similar being from the Balinese folklore of Indonesia. A kuntilanak or matianak in Indonesia, or pontianak or langsweer in Malaysia, is a woman who died during childbirth and became undead, seeking revenge and terrorizing villages. She appeared as an attractive woman with long black hair that covered a hole in the back of her neck, with which she sucked the blood of children. Filling the hole with her hair would drive her off. Corpses had their mouths filled with glass beads, eggs under each armpit, and needles in their palms to prevent them from becoming langur. This description would also fit the Sundel Bolongs. In Vietnam, the word used to translate Western vampires, Ma Karong, originally referred to a type of demon that haunts modern-day Phu Tho province, within the communities of the Tai Dam ethnic minority. The word was first mentioned in the chronicles of 18th century Confucian scholar Laki Dan, who spoke of a creature that lives among humans, but stuffs its toes into its nostrils at night and flies by its ears into houses with pregnant women to suck their blood. Having fed on these women, the Maka Rong then returns to its house and cleans itself by dipping its toes into barrels of sappanwood water. This allows the Maka Rong to live undetected among humans during the day, before heading out to attack again by night. Jiangshi, sometimes called Chinese vampires by Westerners, are reanimated corpses that hop around, killing living creatures to absorb life essence, or qi, from their victims. They are said to be created when a person's soul, or po, fails to leave the deceased's body. Jiangshi are usually represented as mindless creatures with no independent thought. This monster has greenish-white furry skin, perhaps derived from fungus or mold growing on corpses. Jiangshi legends have inspired a genre of Jiangshi films and literature in Hong Kong and East Asia. Films like Encounters of the Spooky Kind and Mr. Vampire were released during the Jiangshi cinematic boom of the 1980s and 1990s. In Europe, where much of the vampire folklore originates, the vampire is usually considered a fictitious being. Many communities may have embraced the revenant for economic purposes. In some cases, especially in small localities, beliefs are still rampant and sightings or claims of vampire attacks occur frequently. In Romania in February 2004, several relatives of Toma Petre feared that he had become a vampire. They dug up his corpse, tore out his heart, burned it, and mixed the ashes with water to drink it. Commentators have offered many theories for the origins of vampire beliefs and related mass hysteria. Everything ranging from premature burial to the early ignorance of the body's decomposition cycle after death has been cited as the cause for the belief in vampires. Author Paul Barber stated that belief in vampires resulted from people of pre-industrial societies attempting to explain the natural, but to them, inexplicable process of death and decomposition. People sometimes suspected vampirism when a cadaver did not look as they thought a normal corpse should when disinterred. Rates of decomposition vary depending on temperature and soil composition, and many of the signs are little known. This has led vampire hunters to mistakenly conclude that a dead body had not decomposed at all, or to interpret signs of decomposition as signs of continued life. Corpses swell as gases from decomposition accumulate in the torso, and the increased pressure forces blood to ooze from the nose and mouth. This causes the body to look plump, well-fed, and ruddy. Changes that are all the more striking if the person was pale or thin in life. In the Arnold Powell case, an old woman's exhumed corpse was judged by her neighbors to look more plump and healthy than she had ever looked in life. The exuding blood gave the impression that the corpse had recently been engaging in vampiric activity. Darkening of the skin is also caused by decomposition. The staking of a swollen, decomposing body could cause the body to bleed and force the accumulated gases to escape the body, This could produce a groan-like sound when the gases move past the vocal cords, or a sound reminiscent of flatulence when they pass through the anus. The official reporting on the Petr Blagojevich case speaks of other wild signs which I pass by out of high respect. After death, the skin and gums lose fluids and contract, exposing the roots of the hair, nails, and teeth, even teeth that were concealed in the jaw. This can produce the illusion that the hair, nails, and teeth have grown. At a certain stage, the nails fall off and the skin peels away, as reported in the Blagojevich case. The dermis and nail beds emerging underneath were interpreted as new skin and new nails. Vampire legends may have also been influenced by individuals being buried alive because of shortcomings in the medical knowledge of the time. In some cases, in which people reported sounds emanating from a specific coffin, it was later dug up, and fingernail marks were discovered on the inside from the victim trying to escape. In other cases, the person would hit their heads, noses, or faces, and it would appear that they had been feeding. A problem with this theory is the question of how people presumably buried alive managed to stay alive for any extended period without food, water, or fresh air. An alternate explanation for noise is the bubbling of escaping gases from the natural decomposition of bodies. Another likely cause of disordered tombs is grave robbery. Folkloric vampirism has been associated with clusters of deaths from unidentifiable or mysterious illnesses, usually within the same family or the same small community. The epidemic illusion is obvious in the classical cases of Petr Blagojevich and Arnold Powell, and even more so in the case of Mercy Brown, and in the vampire beliefs of New England generally, where a specific disease, tuberculosis, was associated with outbreaks of vampirism. As with the pneumonic form of bubonic plague, it was associated with the breakdown of lung tissue, which would cause blood to appear at the lips. In 1985, biochemist David Dolphin proposed a link between the rare blood disorder porphyria and vampire folklore. Noting that the condition is treated by intravenous heme, he suggested that the consumption of large amounts of blood may result in heme being transported somehow across the stomach wall and into the bloodstream. Thus, vampires were merely sufferers of porphyria seeking to replace heme and alleviate their symptoms. The theory has been rebuffed medically as suggestions that porphyria sufferers crave the heme in human blood, or that the consumption of blood might ease the symptoms of porphyria, are based on a misunderstanding of the disease. Furthermore, Dolphin was noted to have confused fictional blood-sucking vampires with those of folklore, many of whom were not noted to drink blood. Similarly, a parallel is made between sensitivity to sunlight by sufferers, yet this was associated with fictional and not folkloric vampires. In any case, Dolphin did not go on to publish his work more widely. Despite being dismissed by experts, the link gained media attention and entered popular modern folklore. Juan Gomez Alonso, a neurologist, examined the possible link of rabies with vampire folklore. The susceptibility to garlic and light could be due to hypersensitivity, which is a symptom of rabies. It can also affect portions of the brain that could lead to disturbance of normal sleep patterns, thus becoming nocturnal, and hypersexuality. Legend once said a man was not rabid if he could look at his reflection, an allusion to the legend that vampires have no reflection. Wolves and bats, which are often associated with vampires, can be carriers of rabies. The disease can also lead to a drive to bite others and to a bloody frothing at the mouth. The reinvention of the vampire myth in the modern era is not without political overtones. The aristocratic Count Dracula, alone in his castle apart from a few demented retainers, appearing only at night to feed on his peasantry, is symbolic of the parasitic Ancien regime. In his entry for vampires in the Dictionnaire philosophique, 1764, Voltaire notices how the mid-18th century coincided with the decline of the folkloric belief in the existence of vampires, but that now there were stock jobbers, brokers, and men of business who sucked the blood of the people in broad daylight. But they were not dead, though corrupted. These true suckers lived not in cemeteries, but in very agreeable palaces. Marx defined capital as dead labor, which, vampire-like, lives only by sucking living labor and lives the more labor it sucks. Werner Herzog, in his Nosferatu the Vampire, gives this political interpretation an extra ironic twist when the protagonist, Jonathan Harker, a middle-class solicitor, becomes the next vampire. In this way, the capitalist bourgeois becomes the next parasitic class. That's going to do it for this series on vampire lore. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next week. Stay tuned and stay weird.
This has been Paul's Fun House, where the party never ends.